Secrets of Kulturbe. Turkestan is the first capital of Kazakh Khanate, one of the most ancient cities of Central Asia. Routes of numerous pilgrims rushing to lower their heads towards its sanctuaries and to see the legendary city cross here. As it was thought until recent times, the settlement on the place of modern Turkestan appeared on the closing of ancient caravan routes about 500 year AD. From the 12th century it is known as Yassy. At this particular time, a poet-thinker and writer's missionary, Hoca Ahmet Yesovi, settled here. At the end of the 14th century, Timur built a famous mausoleum khanate of Sufi order of Yesovi in his honor. First references about Turkestan as a city in written sources are referred to 15th century. Thus, the historians recognize that official age of Turkestan is 1,500 years, but archaeologists think that there are still a lot of blind spots in the history of this ancient city.
И вот касательно Туркестана, как он возник?
How did it appear? As a settlement of settling nomads who came from the Great Steppe and found grazing lands here on the banks of Sirdarya and its side streams and decided to settle down, or as a kind of general headquarters of a Khan. How did it happen? What was at the very beginning? What was the reason why the city began to develop? This is the great mystery.
Это вот большая загадка.
An ancient settlement of Kulturbe is situated 300 meters from mausoleum of Hoca Ahmet Yesovi. To see the ruins of ancient settlement, you should mount a big, slightly sloping hill. The most part of the ancient settlement is under the temporary shed. It was mounted by restorers to protect the ruins from demolition. Kulturbe means coal or ash hill. This name was given by people to the waste deposit where Turkestan residents had dumped ash from their fireplaces for a long time. At that time, few people thought what this huge black hill hides. Archaeological excavations on Kulturbe show that it is the most ancient among the known monuments of town architecture in Sirdarya River steppe. Archaeologists refer early layers of ancient citadel of Yassy to the early times of AD.
Долгое время мы не могли найти и обнаружить, что ли, эти ранние слои, поскольку
For a long time, we could not find these early layers. As we now find out, they were buried until a thick layer of more recent layers. Here, from the top, we took off the layers of 9th to 10th centuries and more later Middle Ages. They broke the underlying layers in some parts, but at the same time, they preserved these remains for us. We were lucky that the preserved earlier layers were partially exposed in the first half of the 20th century, when there was a military unit here. There was such history of Kulturbe.
В начале, в первой половине XX века, когда здесь располагалась воинская часть, была и такая история, история Kulturbe.
What does this ancient city begin from? Archaeological excavations have shown that at the very beginning, in this place, there was a unique 2- or 3-storied cross-shaped building. Soon a rectangular castle with 3 towers were added to it. The sizes of cross-shaped building are 18 by 18 meters. Similar cross-shaped plans are known in monumental architecture of religious structures of Central Asia, says Yebulat Smagulov. It tells of some kind of religious tradition. However, it is not clear what function these structures performed and what religion its builders practiced.
Рассматривая планировку этого замка, нельзя не обратить внимание, что вот это помещение центральное.
Looking carefully at the planning of this castle, we would notice that central indoor space was an open yard which connected all sides of this castle. It has such a strange form, a kind of rectangular one. There are dome-shaped sides of this building, so it has a pentagonal, intricate form. Ancient paddle walls impress with their strength. their thickness was up to 1.5 meters and the height reached 10 meters. Height of the preserved walls is nearly 3 meters. The first builders of Turkestan definitely were very skilled. They knew secrets of construction of buildings and fortresses. You can see the structure. Large-sized raw bricks were used there, and the rammed clay placed in layers. It created a very tight and very strong structure that was able to stand for 2,000 years. Archaeologists date back the structure of the building to the early times of AD. At that time, Julius Caesar ruled in Rome, and the state of Kangyu possessed the south of Kazakhstan. Outside the castle, there were thick defensive walls made of heavy rock blocks. They are also the most ancient that were found and explored in the historical cities of Kazakhstan. I want to show you a section of the western defensive wall which surrounded the citadel of ancient Turkestan. The wall has the width from 3 up to 6 meters. Working premises were found inside of it in the expanded part of this wall. There is more narrow part of the wall of 3 meters side. On the inside of the wall there were the living and service premises which formed the building system of the citadel. The interesting fact about this wall is that we can connect it with construction of cross-shaped building inside the citadel and date it back to rather early time, the early times of AD.
Внутри цитадели и датировать достаточно ранним временем, то есть первыми веками нашей эры.
In the ruins of walls of citadel Kulturbe, the items were found made by ancient masters. The pieces of ovenware, milling stones, bronze pendants, plates for belts and copper coin of Huvishka emperor of the Kushan Empire. Its age is the latter half of the 2nd century AD. Archaeologists have also found alabaster figures of idols that people worshipped, considering them as ancestor spirits.
Наши материалы наших раскопок, видимо, показывают, что тут город Туркестан прошел путь, ну, так скажем, культового, что ли, возникновения.
Materials of our excavation show that there was a cult way of the city of Turkestan. It appeared as the ancient cult place, and then it was well developed. Worshippers appeared, construction was underway, and then it was further developed. For example, there was a central temple structure in the shape of equilateral cross, then a square citadel that was adjoined to it, and a square castle with towers in all directions that also was in the form of a cross. These are tamga-like symbols in the shape of crosses that were drawn on the jar. This is the most common symbol.
Разные знаки, прочерченные на посуде, тоже в виде крестов. Самый распространенный знак.
Технология изготовления этих сосудов, хумов, очень сложная.
Technology of making these kumba jars is very complicated. They were made of 2 or 3 parts, and then these parts were joined together. Height of these jars varied from 1 up to 1.5 meters. After the parts were joined together, they were burnt in big ovens.
После того, как все эти части между собой соединялись, их обжигали в больших печах.
Mysterious symbols were drawn on the upper part of huge kumbas which were found in Kulturbe. What is it? Are these the tamgas of ancient tribes, inhabitants of these areas? Or are these the marks of masters who made these jars? The crosses were a solar symbol of many ancient religions. They can be found in ancient Tengrian or Christian temples. Scientists think that the kumbas could be a ceramic urn for storage of ancestors' remains worshipped by heliolators. But it is also possible that kumbas had no occultic meaning and were used as containers for oil, grain and other products. In the beginning of the 1st millennium in the south of Kazakhstan, there were late Sarmatian tribes. The ancient inhabitants of Kulturbe were involved in agriculture and livestock breeding, produced ceramic ovenware, and traded with neighboring tribes. In the 12th century, the settlements of Turkic-Oguz Yassi tribe appeared in these areas. The name of these tribes gave the name to a city of Yassi. Secrets of Kulturbe are just being revealed. But even today, archaeologists can make suggestions about the fate of this ancient settlement and why people left this place. More than likely, that fortress passed through dramatic historic events and was abandoned by the inhabitants after a severe fire. The analysis of these artifacts tell that this event happened in the 4th century AD. The beginning of the 4th century in the history of Central Asia is connected with wars of so-called invasion of White Huns that conquered the cities, placed provinces under control, set new dynasties. Thus, there was a cardinal shift of power, change of ethnic and cultural dominance in Central Asia.
Какие-то провинции устанавливали новые династии, то есть происходила кардинальная смена власти, происходила смена доминанты, что ли, и этнической, и культурной. Средняя Азия.
A full planning of cultic complex will be revealed after completion of photogrammetrical works. Daniel Zharkanaliyev conducts them. He came from Russian city Astrakhan at the invitation of Kazakhstani archaeologists.
По итогу наших работ мы получаем трехмерную модель, план городища.
As a result of our work, we get a three-dimensional model or plan of the ancient settlement. On the basis of this three-dimensional model, we can get a view from above, general view on the whole ancient settlement, on the excavation of this year and on the aspect of how this excavation is connected with the researches of last years. In the following years, this model will help us to get the plan in drafting form, and we think how to implement this three-dimensional model in the future.
Можно будет эту трехмерную модель применять в будущем.
Yassi originally was an ancient cultic center of the southern Kazakhstan. Smagulov believes that for this very reason, at proper time, the great Hoja Ahmed Yasawi came to this small city in the valley of Sirdarya. With the word of God, with his own example and rejection from worldly blessings, he convinced local people to accept new faith, Sufi strand of Islam. Excavations near Kulturbe led the scientists to solution of the role of Turkestan in ancient times as a religious center of at least three mutually enriching religions: Tengrism, Christianity, and Islam.
То есть вот такие вот артефакты отдельные, они сливаются.
These separate artifacts consolidate into a theory that at all times here in Turkestan, a great attention was paid to religious things rather than to worldly ones. Therefore, I see the role of the city of Turkestan in the modern history of Kazakhstan. Nur-Sultan Nazarbayev, who called Turkestan a religious and spiritual capital of Kazakhstan, was right.
Nur-Sultan Nazarbayev, когда называл Туркестан духовной столицей Казахстана.
Due to archaeologists' research, the age of Turkestan was appeared to be older by 500 years. Here was one of the important directions of Great Silk Road. Caravans went through the steppes of Sirdarya to Samarkand, Bukhara, Khiva, and Seychelles. Local people were involved in trade, cultivated fields, worshipped natural forces, and defended their lands. After 2 millennia, only ruins remained about former life of ancient settlement. Not all mysteries of Kulturbe are unveiled yet, and scientists are ready to continue ancient monument research work next year. In the future, they plan to place it into the museum exposition of Azret Sultan Reserve. Archaeologists of Turkestan believe that this is one of the most unique monuments of Sirdarya region, and it will arouse a great interest among international visitors.